Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the TTF webinar on China and related supply chains, including Eastern Russia, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands. So we are Efeca, there's Rose and myself, and we were asked by TTF to complete 21 country profiles. So who are we? Well, we run the CPET service, and we have about 70 years of experience in over 30 countries. And by the end of this webinar, what we are hoping you will be able to do is to be aware of the country profiles, what kind of countries we looked at, and where you find them, what kind of information is available to you, and also how to use that information, why TTF developed those profiles. So they asked us to develop them to support your due diligence assessments, to signpost you to interesting reports, interesting websites, and to get the most recent information that they and ourselves are aware of to their members, just to make life as easy as possible for you. They are not intended to do your due diligence assessments for you, but just to help you in the process. So as I said, we looked at 21 country profiles across globally, and the reason why these countries were chosen well, a couple of reasons. One, Anand looked at the import data into the UK in particular and picked out the countries that we import from a lot. And then he also added a few more that he thought were the most important for the TTF members to look at, the ones that were potentially more high risk than others in their supply chains. And as I keep saying, we covered 21 countries. So we looked at, in Asia, there was China, Indonesia, Malaysia, Papua New Guinea, and the Solomon Islands. In Europe, we looked at Bulgaria, Poland, Romania, Russia, and Ukraine. In North America, we looked at Canada and the US. And in South America, Brazil and Uruguay. And then there were 7 African countries: Central African Republic, Cameroon, Côte d'Ivoire, DRC, Ghana, Liberia, and Republic of Congo. So across the webinar series, we have conducted 5 webinars in all, and they're grouping together the country profiles. And we must emphasize here that we're not going through each country profile paragraph by paragraph. There are obviously web links and reports that we're not indicating within the webinars on each of the country profiles, but it's just to give you an idea of what kind of information we have highlighted, what in our opinion is the most interesting, potentially the most interesting websites for you, just to give you an idea and to help you, supporting you in this due diligence assessments that you must conduct. So the profiles are constructed with 6 different sections. So the introduction of the profile gives an indication of the types of. So you can see here that the general background is the introduction to all of the country profiles, and you can see that it covers a number of things, including deforestation rates and forest statistics that we thought would be interesting for you to give an overview of the country. If you travel further down, you can see that it sometimes picks up, it all varies per country profile, but it sometimes picks up the most useful legislation and describes that very briefly. And then the profile moves on to look at the UK imports by product group, as well as the key import and export data. Now, these are currently 2012 data, but Anand will be updating it to 2013 data, which comes out middle of the year. So it's just coming out now, and these will be updated in the near future. So it will be 2013 data. Following on, we've looked at the common trade species for each of the countries. And you can see that we've divided it into natural forest and plantation, as well as providing a couple of useful websites, such as the Delta Inky website, which you can use if you need to find out a common trade name. And there are other species websites slightly further on in the risk information, including the CITES links and the speciesplus.net website. So these are all websites that that you can use if you're trying to find out a species name or information. Then you get into the more meaty sections. There are two more well-developed sections. One is on the legal framework, and the second one is on the risk information. So under the legal framework section, we outlined a number of sources that you can use to either track down the most recent legislation for China or Russia or Papua New Guinea or Solomon Islands, including the Global Forest Registry. So if I go on to the Global Forest Registry website, you'll see it's a map of the world, and then you can either go through the approved tab at the top, or you can just click on the country and it will load up with this information sheet. So at the top, you've got the draft list of applicable legislation in China. You can see in the top right-hand corner, you've got the last update was 2011. So it's not amazingly up to date, but it is. They're actually in the process of updating all of these websites. So I will mention that in the next minute. And then if you go down further down, you can scroll down. The red dot means that there's an unspecified risk, and you will see immediately, very visually, that in China, so for the first part of legality, all of the criteria are an unspecified risk. However, if you move into traditional and civil rights, you will see that there are a few more green dots, as in low risk. And you can see that they've got the justification and then the source of information, how they are justifying why they are giving that specific criteria, either an unspecified risk, investigate further, or a low risk, you in our opinion, it is a low risk, so not as vital to check on as others. And as I was saying, they are in the middle of updating the whole of the Global Forest Registry. And if you put in new in capital letters, or if you go to the home page, as in take out the word map at the end of the web address, you will be able to go straight to the new version. And this is in the process of being updated. So I believe if we click on China now, there's not a lot of information. In fact, there's no information at all. However, if we click on Russia, you will see that this has been last updated in March 2015, again, top right-hand corner, and that there's a lot more information that's been populated. the other interesting thing is that they're actually looking at more detailed criteria. So definitely one to keep an eye on. It's useful information. What other things are useful in China? Well, you've got the TTAP forest legality checklist that you can go to, and then the FAO Lex, which I've gone through in other webinars. I've gone through in a lot of detail. It's a good initial source to go to. However, so if you go to advanced search and then forestry, which is right in the middle, click search and then put in China and search, you will see that 46 records come up. And then on page 2, a lot of them are regional laws, but on page 2 you will see, I don't think it clicked through to page 2, let's try once more. You will see that that you've got the Forest Law of the People's Republic of China that you can click into, and then it will sometimes have it available in English, but it will also take you through to the Forestry department on the Chinese government's website. And then if you look up at, again, the top right-hand corner, you've got the English version, which is here. So it's the State Forestry Administration for China. And if you go back to home, you'll see along the tab bar, you've got policies and regulations that you can click into. So a very useful official website to try tracking things down through. What other information is there? So you've got, if we look at the risk section, we have got various information, including Global Forest Watch. That's a very useful website to investigate. Quite often you look at a website and don't know how to use it, etc., etc. But in this section, they've got an how-to, a couple of minutes. They're videos that are each of a couple of minutes, and very useful to view, so that you know how to make the most of this website. So you can see you've got the overview, visualizing global data, visualizing the country data, viewing forest statistics and analyzing forest change. And for example, if you go onto the country profiles and rankings, you will be able to go through and pick out China, for example, and it will tell you the tree cover loss over the last 12 years, tree cover gain, as well as other information, including the number of former alerts and the economic value of their forestry sector. So that kind of very high-level information that it's providing. And as I've said, I have gone into much more detail in other webinars, so I'm not going to go into such a lot of detail, but you can you immediately see, if you go to forest change and then take out the gain, so this is just the forest loss, you will see that it's quite clear that it's you can pick out areas. So your forest concessions, if you know the longitude and latitude, you can put it into the search bar. So the search is at the bottom left-hand corner. Put your longitude and your latitude into your search bar, and then do you can look at your tree cover loss over the course of a 12-year period. I am just trying to zoom in a little bit more, and then you will be able to see gradually how the tree cover loss develops. And you can follow through. It's just, again, it's supporting your due diligence. Was there any reason for this tree cover loss apart from I mean, it could be natural disasters such as tornadoes or typhoons, or it could be illegal logging, particularly if the tree cover loss is happening in areas which are supposed to be protected. So what other information have we got? Another website is from the Spanish Timber Trade Association called Madeira Legal, and here we have their risk assessment of all the countries. So it is in Spanish. It's quite easy to put it into Google Translate should you need it. But I've gone to the China country, and you can see immediately that they have put that it's a high risk. And then below, they've described why, in their opinion, it is a high risk. And you can transfer it into Google Translate, as I said, and take it out. And you can see that there's no date. There's no exact date as to when these were classified, but slightly, second paragraph down, you can see that it says 2014. So it is relatively recent. Again, it's just a useful possibility, a useful source of information, just to stack up and stack up and stack up for your due diligence. What other information is there? So you can see that there's lots of other information that you can see. We've got the Corruption Perception Index from Transparency International, which is really good as an overview for assessing your country risk. And in fact, it gives you an indication of whether, because it's all about perception, so it gives you an indication. You can compare years to see if the country that you're looking at has been perceived to be getting less corrupt or more corrupt in terms of the public officials that they're looking at. And there's information on the country profiles about how to do this. Rose is now going to take us through one of the reports from Chatham House that we found that was quite interesting. So I will pass you over to Rose.
Okay, thank you very much, Lucy. So this is a research paper that was written by Chatham House in December 2014, or specifically by Laura Wellesley. And this report just goes through the illegal timber trade and the response to that in China. Now, it's quite a long report, so we will let you read through it at your own time. But some of the key information which is in the report is just here. For example, there's the estimated levels of trade in illegal wood-based products. And it's also got a policy assessment score as well. So if we look at the estimated levels of trade, I'm just zooming in a bit more so you can see. It's got this chart here, which is quite interesting because it shows you the timber sector, and you can see that's got a general decrease over time, sort of since 2008, which is quite interesting. And the paper sector is decreasing, leveling a bit here now. And within the document itself, it's quite interesting to see the reasons it gives for these changes is because of the changes in demand globally. Often countries will be exporting to America or to Europe, but recently as those have decreased in their demand and China has increased in its demand, that has given some indications to why these changes have happened. If we scroll down a bit more, okay. So it's got the methodology here as well, which is quite handy. Where's it go? Here we go. So this is the policy assessment score. And the reason I wanted to bring this to your attention, because it's quite useful, is it's just got a comparison between the 2008 and 2013 policies. And this was done by Chatham House, and the methodology is included, so I'll let you read that. But it just shows that, for example, in terms of high-level policy, there hasn't been a considered difference there at all. And then if you look at the public procurement policy, however, now that has changed. Now, these were not available in 2008, but now that they are available, you can see here that there are some 5s and 3s here. So that is a good indication, because 5 is the highest score with 2. So you get a score for the existence of a policy. You get a score out of 5 as to how well the policy was designed, and then you get a score out of 5 as to how well the policy has been implemented. Now, as you can see, there's not a lot of data implementation at the moment. Now, that's not to say that it's not being implemented, it's just that this report from Chatham House doesn't have that information. So we would advise using lots of different sources. As Lucy has said, this is part of your due diligence. So none of these sources is going to give you a definite yes or no concerning the risk of importing or exporting to these countries. It's just the, for your own information gathering, so you can form your own opinion. Another way of forming your own opinion is to look at the different news sources that are available from each country. So this is a good example from China. This is the People's Daily. This is a very popular English language news source. It is funded by the government. It does receive government funding. So we see that you have to take that into consideration, the funding for each source of information. And the site has a really useful search bar here. So you'll see I've searched forest this morning. Very basic. It could have gone for logging, it could have gone for timber, there's lots of different things you can do. And this is one of the first rows that came up, and this is a remote sensing satellite, which is now in operation, called Service 4 or CBERS, depending on how you'd like to go with that. And this has been developed with Brazil, and it's it's a remote sensing satellite. And what it will do is it's going to be used with developing countries, mostly in Africa, and it's going to look at land resource exploration, forest protection, hydropower projects. There's various different applications for this, and it's the 5th satellite that's been put into use. So this is quite an important project. It's it's an international cooperation, and it's looking at the deforestation control and environmental monitoring. So, for example, in Brazil, it's been used in the Amazon. So it's a very useful tool, and knowing that this tool is becoming available gives you an indication as to, how committed the Chinese government might be to promoting, good forest management practice. And also, when this data becomes available, it might be useful as part of your own due diligence in the future as well. Another source of information from China is the China Dialogue site, which the China Dialogue is an independent non-profit organisation, and it's focused on environmental news and awareness stories from within China. And they have an office in China and in London, so the site is multilingual. It automatically just comes to the English version first. And it also has a search bar here, but it also has blog posts and highlights, and you can sign up for email updates as well in the top right corner. A lot of the news websites that we've highlighted, we won't go through all of them today. As Lucy said, we've done a lot of these before, and also there's just so many. A lot of these sites will have a email update or a weekly update, so you don't have to go to these sites yourself every day and scroll through. You can just let them feed into your email inbox and just keep it really easy. So an interesting story from China Dialogue is this story here. Now this is from Alison Hall, who's also a part of Chatham House. So the site is quite a reliable site in terms of the source of the information that it's coming from. And this is a report about the fact that China is both a major cause and a potential solution to illegal logging. And it's just a nice overview. It's a nice position to start. So if you're working in a country for the first time or with a species in particular you don't know much about, this is a good space to start to gather information. So it's got some nice data in here as well. So for example, between 2000 and 2013, the proportion of gardeners exports to the EU and the US declined from 75% to 35%, but then shipments to China rose from 1% to 20%. So again, this is highlighting the same information that was in the Chatham House report, and it's showing how differences in demand is changing how we're looking at the timber across the world. So instead of going to the USA, it's going to China, and what impact that's going to have now within the country. Another source of information, this is the Solomon Star. Now, the Solomon Star is obviously for the Solomon Islands, and it's a very handy website again. It's got the search bar here, and it does have a lot of adverts, so please ignore those. But the most recent story I found here is one about the Korea is assisting the Forestry Ministry by donating to the country so it can improve its forest resource management, and in particular establish an action plan. Now, some of the items that it's donated were GIS software and portable GPS and distance measurer, just to name a few things. And the portable GPS in particular and the distance measurer are very useful. At a conference in Chatham House recently, a lady from Colombia talked about how these tools have been helping within the country. So seeing international support in other countries can be very useful. It shows you, you know, what direction the forest management policies and action plans are going in, and it will just improve part of your due diligence. So by having these extra additional action plans in the Solomon Islands, they might be now seen as less a risk, but again, that will be based on the other information that you can gather as part of your due diligence. Okay. Lucy, I don't know if there's anything else you would like to talk about. I'm going to pass you back to being a presenter.
Thank you. Am I sharing now?
No, we're just on the presentation at the moment.
Okay, so I will go back to sharing. So the last thing I want to highlight today for the Chinese webinar is the NMRO Plywood report. That was written and published in February 2015 by the UK Competent Authority. So the report can be found through the profile. I'm just trying to find it, but it is there, and it goes to the gov.uk website, where you can find the actual research report, and then it gives you a summary and background information, as well as the NMRO contact details. I'm sure you are all aware of the report, so I'm not going to go into details about it, but it was based on a number of organisations' due diligence systems that they weren't adequate enough. So 14 out of 16 companies submitted their DDSs and they were found to be insufficient by the NMRO. And it goes into more detail about the fact that the NMRO then purchased samples from 13 organisations, and 9 out of the 13 organisations of the samples did not match the declaration supplied by each of the company regarding the species. So it's background information of what the NMRO have done in the past what they're likely to do what they could potentially do in the future. Possibly not on plywood, but it is likely that they will move on to either a different product group or a certain high-risk country. But interestingly, Anand asked the NMRO to look at the country profiles for us, just to see what they thought about the country profiles, and they said that that the country profiles helped support, that they could help support members in undertaking a thorough risk assessment, and if the information and the links contained within the country profiles were used properly and as they were designed to be used, then members should be able to draw realistic and reasoned conclusions on the risk posed by each of the countries. So now the very final thing that we'd like to go through is the future proofing. So to be able to make sure that you're using the most up-to-date information, there are a few things that you can do. Thank you. There are a few things that TTF and Efeca have recommended that you do. One is, as Rose said, look at the local press, because that's the most up-to-date articles, and each article can lead to different reports. So keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on the international news articles, such as the Monga Bay and the Chatham House websites. And again, reiterating what Rose said, they do the emails that come straight to your inbox, so it's really easy to do. I mean, Monga Bay, you can sign up for either a daily or a weekly newsletter. And then TTF obviously send out regularly these sustainability briefings and the risk newsletters, and they again highlight interesting articles, interesting reports that you may have missed. So you keep an eye on them, and just make sure that whatever websites that you're looking at, they should have a last updated, or when they were last updated. And actually, just to reiterate, that the date that each country profile was last updated is at the top, so you will be able to check on that. That's it. Thank you very much. Should you have any questions, please either contact myself or Anand. And we hope that you find all of the country profiles useful and are able to use them to support you in your due diligence assessments. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.